escorted from the Garden? It's unbelievable to me. Anyway, no, you don't even fire Dolan. You know who you have to fire first? The fans. Because you, including the guy who got escorted, are spending money on this pathetic joke of a franchise. So Dolan is never punished. In fact, the Forbes list comes out every year. Guess who's the #1 most valuable franchise in the NBA ahead of the Lakers with LeBron James? The New York Knicks, and they're way up over last year. As long as you patronize the Knicks, Dolan is not punished for his awful behavior. The organization is a joke. They will never get a top-flight free agent. They will never succeed as long as Dolan owns the team. He doesn't care because you will keep patronizing the product. And he has enough influence in New York that he can silence a lot of the media. And he tries to, believe me. I have worked. I was on ESPN radio when Dolan tried to exert pressure to stop saying bad things about him or the Knicks. And by the way, I was one of the people trying to say as many good things as I could. I'm a Knicks fan, or was at the time. No. The Knicks are a joke. Fizdale should not lose his job because Dolan, James Dolan, is the worst owner in the NBA.
Actually, you're wrong. And here's why you're wrong about what you just said about Fizdale. Because every argument you made should justify him wanting to be fired. If he wanted to get out of Memphis, why the hell should he want to stay in New York? Based off of what you just explained about the franchise. And that's the issue in question. I didn't say he deserved to be fired because he's not a good coach. I didn't say he deserved to be fired because he can't coach. I said he's been cut off at the knees. The die has been cast. It has already been established. We are about to move in a new direction. I don't care what anybody says. You do not have a press conference like that, which, by the way, James Dolan knew was going to happen, okay? I don't know whether he told Steve Mills to do that or not, but I do know that he was aware that Steve Mills was going to do it because they got blown out by Cleveland. And in the three of their 8 losses this year, they've got blown out by Detroit. They've got blown out by Sacramento. They've got blown out by Cleveland. 2 non-playoff teams and one that didn't even belong in there. As far as I'm concerned, the Milwaukee Bucks had a bye series last year in the playoffs when they played the Pistons because the Pistons were no match for them and everybody knew it, particularly with Blake Griffin unhealthy but still playing hurt. At the end of the day, you do not come out in a press conference and say, we are supposed to be better after 10 games. And once again, Max, this also points to your analytics. It shows that has something to do with Steve Mills as well. Why? Because if you recall, last year, Daryl Morey let go of Carmelo Anthony. When did he let go of Carmelo Anthony, Max? It was at the 10-game mark. What do the analytics do known for doing? Evaluating things on a 10-game radius. It's what they do. 10 games in, you're Steve Mills, and you elect to have a press conference, impromptu, because a team that was expected to be sorry looked sorry.
Look.
Really? That doesn't make any kind of sense whatsoever. You did it for a reason.
I want to give fans a remedy, Knicks fans a remedy, because you're not going to fire Dolan. You must fire yourselves or it will never get better. Fire yourselves from being a Knicks fan. The Knicks have run unopposed in New York City for decades, no longer. The Brooklyn Nets are in town now. The Nets used to be on Long Island, used to be the New York Nets in the ABA when Dr. J won a championship for you. Then they go to Jersey. They're back in New York. Hold on one second. Back in New York, in Brooklyn. Fire yourselves from being Knicks fans. You will punish Dolan. That will start to change things. Root for the Nets. Well, Stephen A., I just want to say something about this. Charles Oakley was escorted from Madison Square Garden. He was the heart and soul of those teams. Patrick Ewing was his team, but he was escorted. Paul O'Neill was the heart and soul of the Yankees. Would Paul O'Neill ever be escorted out of Yankee Stadium? Like, is Big Bird going to be escorted off of Sesame Street next? What's next for the New York Knicks?
Let it go. Let it go. It's almost like with Kyrie Irving talking about the world is flat. We got it. Let that go, because
Never.
Oakley being escorted out of the arena, as egregious as that was, and as bad as that was, and as inexcusable as that was on a part of James Dolan, guess what? That's an afterthought to Knicks fans. What really matters is the fact that Oakley should want to leave because of how bad the product is. And that's where we get back to this. Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, in part, chose the Brooklyn Nets over the New York Knicks because Dolan was running this franchise. David Fizdale arrived as the head coach of the New York Knicks with the endorsement of Dwayne Wade and LeBron James, two surefire first ballot Hall of Famers. I was of the mindset that Mark Jackson should be the head coach. Now, why is that important? I'm not saying that Mark Jackson was a better coach than David Fizdale. I'm saying that New Yorkers need a New Yorker, because the reality of the situation is that there's no one there that New Yorkers trust. What you need first within the Knicks organization, and this is why I had even told Steve Mills and Scott Perry at the time, I thought they made a mistake. As much as I love Fizdale and as good of a coach as I think he would be almost any place else, the reason why I was so supportive of Mark Jackson being a coach of the Knicks is because with what you say about Dolan, understand what New Yorkers need. We need somebody that when they speak into the microphone every day, they're the face of the franchise. Somebody we can trust. Somebody when they open their mouth, we know they mean what they say, and we can relate to them because they're one of us as New Yorkers. That's not Fizdale. And that's the only reason, because it's Dolan. If it was any other owner, that's different. But with all the nonsense that comes associated with Madison Square Garden, the New York Knicks needed a voice that they could trust, so Steve Mills and Scott Perry could be behind the scenes doing their job, and Dolan could go play his guitar with his little band. Unfortunately, he didn't do that, and as a result, you have the mess you have.
Kyrie Irving is putting on a show every night at Barclays. KD is going to be coming back to that team next year. New York fans, I used to be a Knicks fan my whole life. Stayed up all night to get playoff tickets, Stephen A. My brother and me waiting on Blockbuster line around the corner to buy nosebleed tickets to watch Patrick Ewing and them in the playoffs. I go way back with the Knicks. Fire yourselves as fans. The Brooklyn Nets are worth paying attention to.
Tell me how you really feel.
You brought
I
up
think you guys
Kyrie
need a little more
Irving.
passion
You
in this
brought up
segment.
Kyrie Irving. The Brooklyn Nets are only 4-5 on the season, but he is averaging 30. Kyrie is a
show worth watching.
Kyrie Irving is
KD.
All right,
averaging
guys.
30 on
We gotta go.
46% shooting and 37%.
I know this one hurts your heart. Knicks at Bulls tonight. Much more to come. Did LSU roll the tide right out of the playoff hunt? Desmond Howard will be here to tell us, and Marcus Spears. Plus, one NBA owner says load management is the best thing that's ever happened to the league. You don't want to miss what Stephen A. has to say about that take. Stay here. It's First Take.